Let me take you back to 1924 to actually understand the significance of what we're celebrating today. It is October 1924, 100 years ago. In that room is someone breathing a sigh of relief. Finally, he's been able to officially register the first Toastmasters Club, a community of people who really are determined and desperate to improve their communication and public speaking skills. It's a small group, but he believes he has done his part. But you see, no event, much like today, just wakes up and happens. In 1904, Dr. Ralph C. Smedley looked into his world, in his community, particularly his work in the YMCA, the Young Men Christian Association. And when he looked around, he probably saw fine men like you and I. I'm not trying to be astounding in any way, but those men had all the intellect, but lacked the confidence, the courage to communicate their ideas clearly and confidently. Does that ring a bell in today's world? In 1904, Ralph Smedley had seen this need, and he decided, my contribution to society shall be helping empower young men to develop their communication and leadership skills. It took him 20 good years to get there. What would you have done if you were Ralph Smedley? Because for 20 good years, you are trying to get something off the ground. Many of us have businesses that we run. Imagine 20 good years of getting your first set of clients, 20 clients to get it going. Would you still have been pursuing? But like I said, Ralph Smedley said to himself and the people around him, I believe, this will be my contribution to society. In 1924, after these 20 years, he managed to get the first Toastmasters Club started. Years later, it wasn't just for the Young Men Christian Association. We welcomed women in the 1970s. And when we welcomed women into the Toastmasters, Toastmasters became better for it. Today, 2024, October 22, 2024, you and I are beneficiaries of Dr. Ralph C. Smedley's contribution. Do you believe or think in the slightest of sense, in the 20 years that he was struggling to get this program off the ground, do you in the slightest of thought think he had this idea that what he had as a contribution to society would be such an astounding introduction to what we see today as the global Toastmasters International? Do you think he had that idea? I don't think so. And if we were to go with my assertion, and anyone else who shares that assertion with me, you would realize that you and I today have the same responsibility as Dr. Ralph C. Smedley had, to identify a need and to offer your contribution. I was asking myself a few years ago when I then found myself benefiting from Toastmasters. You see, with me, on the 19th of January 2015, I walked into a small room full of gray-haired men and women who I actually, prior to my experience of a Toastmasters meeting, very much respected, because they were industry leaders in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. And so we would see them on TV, would hear of them and their contribution in newspapers. They were industry captains. And I thought, wow, I've made it. I'm in the room. I'm on this particular seat around the table with leaders in the corporate space, only to be disappointed when one of them came up to give what they call an icebreaker. For those that don't know what an icebreaker is, it's the very first speech that a Toastmaster gives when they start their journey to developing effective communication skills. In this icebreaker, it's a very simple project. Tell us about yourself. 4 to 6 minutes. How difficult could that be? Oh boy, was I not embarrassed, disappointed by what I saw. This gray-haired man trying to give an account of his life. It can't be that difficult, can it? As he went on. To some level, around 3 minutes of his speech, he asked to start again. And he did. And for 10 good minutes, I was just watching. At some point, I wanted to laugh, but I felt out of place because I was the only one laughing. You see, where I come from, the schools where I came from, if you couldn't enunciate and pronounce the English words properly, stay away from public speaking. And so, yes, they asked me after the session, how did you find your experience? To be honest, the only reason I stayed in that meeting was because they were offering us Coca-Cola, and I couldn't say no to Coke then. But truly, I then was disappointed with the meeting. In fact, I was more disappointed with how they reacted to this gray-haired man who was an industry captain. Surely there must be standards. Aren't there standards in your life? The gentleman who was then revealed to me as the vice president of membership says to me, Andrew, don't you know people in your world, in your community, we've got so much to contribute, but lack the confidence and decide to keep it aside? Don't you sometimes have great ideas that you have and you think, this is such a great idea, but you're like, I don't want them to judge me. What if it's not that great? What if I'm overthinking it? He got me because I do know such people. Do you? I also have those moments where I'm thinking, it's not my place. And from that conversation, he helped me understand that Toastmasters exists to give confidence and courage to people like you and I, who sometimes have a moment of doubt, who believe less of ourselves and want to develop that confidence in order for us to give our contribution. And when I look back to that day, when I eventually signed my membership form, I always asked myself, what would my contribution be when I get the confidence and the courage to produce that contribution? Today, I want to ask you to ask yourself, what is my contribution to the society and environment around you? Because I believe Toastmasters is the vehicle that you have at your disposal to take you from where you are to where you want society to be. And it doesn't have to be something that lasts the next 100 years. Neither does it have to be something that you carry on your shoulders on your own. Because believe you me, when I look at Toastmasters today, and when I celebrate the centennial of Toastmasters, whilst I celebrate the contribution Ralph C. Smedley has given, I celebrate each and every member who has taken time, the step of courage to deliver their speech because we are richer for it. I celebrate each and every evaluator who has taken time to give thoughtful, constructive, positive feedback because we are richer for it today. I celebrate the R-counter, the general evaluator who has given us feedback that has become breakfast for the champions that we seem to be in our society today. I celebrate the club officers, who week in, week out, without any salary or remuneration, serve to help enrich and empower each and every member across the over 150 countries, 350,000 plus members, to then ensure that you and I are able to give our contribution to our communities, our cities, our countries, our continent at large. What is your contribution? Toastmasters is that vehicle that can help you ensure your contribution is well received. Because through Toastmasters, we develop public speaking skills in order for our contribution to be verbalized and communicated to the masses, confidently so, because we lead through speaking. Many movements were inspired and influenced by the power of speech. Talkers have always led, and they will continue to rule. And apparently, the smart thing is to join them. Toastmasters has in its arsenal the vehicle of public speaking for your contribution to be accepted and realized. Toastmasters not only gives you public speaking, but it gives you the confidence to then take a contribution to the market. I have been able to start my own business as a result of the Toastmasters Empowerment Program. And through it, I've been able to walk into boardrooms that I never imagined I would at my tender age, let alone at any point in my life. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to reach out and then be able to use that approach to then change your life, just as mine has. Toastmasters not only gives you the public speaking and the confidence, but it also gives you an opportunity to develop your management skills, whether it's time management or resource management. Toastmasters allows you to be able to do so many things in little time, simply because of the time management skills that we get, the management skills that we have to manage the resources. I, for one, have learned to be resourceful in Toastmasters. My business did not receive any funding from the government. And so I don't blame and complain to the government that I wish they could give funding, they could make funding available. I've learned to be resourceful through negotiation skills and ability to negotiate and trade. Barter trade is what it is. Today, I am better for it. Toastmasters gave me the management skills for that. Toastmasters has afforded me the leadership skills in order to lead teams in various environments without the imposter syndrome of being young or Black or any other stereotype that is associated with you and I when we walk into a room. Toastmasters has afforded me the ability to influence people so that they too can rally behind a movement. It is for that reason that a few years ago, when I had the opportunity to serve Toastmasters across Southern Africa, I wanted to start my movement of redefining leadership in our continent. So much so that when we start defining leadership in our continent, it's not synonymous to corruption. No, it's synonymous to old age and old systems, but synonymous to excellence, to respect, to integrity, and excellence. How are you contributing to the society that you're part of? And ultimately, not only does Toastmasters give us all this, Toastmasters gives us the strategic thinking helmet in order to see in the future what we may need. Ralph Smedley gave us his contribution. I've shared what my contribution is. The question I have is, what is your contribution? Zig Ziglar says it well. If I want to have all I want to gain in life, I have to help other people gain all they want to gain. And so I want to challenge you to contribute and to offer your contribution to your community, to your company, to your city, to your country, to this continent at large. It may be as simple as documenting your experiences on social media so that our artificial intelligence can be wired and centered with the context of your sharing. Because unless your story is out there, other people out there can never know about it. It can be as simple as you reaching out and helping and mentoring, sponsoring a young person to come into their different setting and find their voice. You are making your contribution. And it can be as simple as taking that business idea to making it a product or service that you and I know that we need. The continent has so many needs that you and I can contribute toward. It doesn't have to be something big. Other people will help you make it bigger. Just as in 1924, Dr. Ross Smedley was able to gather 20 people. Today, Toastmasters talks of over 5 million people who have benefited from this program. Was it by his own doing? No, but his contribution is what we're celebrating today. What contribution will we be celebrating from you when the year ends, in 10 years' time, or in a century's time? I look forward to celebrating it, at least in my lifetime. Back to you, Melanie.